I was the young fakir. I don't know if anybody remembers Eartha Kitt, but she came over. She was standing in the wings and couldn't work out what this theatre was called pantomime. And she was playing the princess, and she was going to be marrying this old fakir. She didn't like that, so she changed him into a young fakir. So I married Eartha Kitt twice nightly.
Excellent.
Very nice.
Can't be bad.
Very cool.
So Costa's sort of got a gap here between when you both played monsters. I want to compare a little bit what it was like then as opposed to now. So first of all, are actors playing monsters treated well on set?
I would say sometimes you do get forgotten about, but the roles that I've played personally in my experience, I've always had a team of makeup people around me all the time, protecting either the makeup or whatever the costume is, because it's very, very, very expensive and priceless, and if something happens to it, they're kind of very protective of it. So I don't feel ever alone on set. I always have like a team of makeup people who are, giving me water to drink or putting a fan near my face so I can breathe. Some of the costumes I've worn are very, 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 very hot, and the lights can be extremely hot, so you can overheat easily, which has happened to me on Clash of the Titans and on Doctor Who.
What about you, Dave? Were you screwed into that thing? Or was it, how was that held on?
In Earthshock, which is the first one that I did, they used to screw the panel in there. So once you were in it, you knew you couldn't get out unless you could find somebody with a screwdriver.
Unbelievable.
There were a couple of extras who really found that difficult. They had nothing to think about but how to get out of their head.
Yeah.
I mean, one in particular was just when he had to be held down really and then unscrewed. It can be a scary thing. It's a state of mind, isn't it?
Yeah, I would say it's a state of mind, definitely. You need to be able to go to your quiet place.
A bit of zen and you're okay.
I've heard about quite a serious medical condition. What is cyber nose?
Cyber nose, yeah, because the first heads weren't as wide as that, weren't as deep. And so it meant that your nose was rubbing on the fiberglass inside. And it just got a bit itchy. I mean, it wasn't all that bad. There was also, Cyber Crutch, which was later. That Cyber Crutch came in Silver Nemesis. And it was because the costume itself wasn't such a resilient one. The first costumes were fighter planes, and they went so high they had to be kept warm, so that's what the pipes were about. But later on you had canvas, which wasn't as strong, and then the pipes were sort of painted on. And they tended to split. And so they could, if you were working your legs too much, they could split in the crutch.
Is that the costume there?
That's the earlier costume.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I did have the interesting experience of having to use some tape to put it up again, and that's quite a ticklish operation.
I bet it is. Yeah, not something you'd put on in HD now, I don't think, is it? Your name did become known to me a lot more during the missing years, basically. Doctor Who wasn't on telly for a long time, yet you sort of knew there was still an audience for Doctor Who stuff, and you created a beautiful Cyberman book, and your amazing audios with your sound effects and the music. I remember buying it myself. Why did you suddenly think that this was here to tap into?
Well, I was just really fascinated by Cybermen and the cyber myth, and I wanted to make sense of these different stories that had come out ad hoc, it seemed to me. You'd never got explained to you why the Cybermen would be slightly different, why they were, as I described them, in 10th Planet, and how they became, 500 years later. We know 500 years has passed when I came into Doctor Who as the Cyberleader. How did this happen? And so I thought of a way of bringing all that together and changing the stories around, an archivist from a planet far away who just knew the documents and wanted to make sense of them. So that, it interested me. And I thought, well, if it interested me, and I had interesting conversations with fans, that it would interest them as well. So I really went into it in a kind of serious academic way, but also kind of tongue-in-cheek. But it seems to me that the cyber story is a vital one then. We all knew about climate change then. When I played the Doctor in The Ultimate Adventure, the two chances I got, I had a Greenpeace t-shirt. I was warning Earth about what was coming and that we had to really look after Earth. That was 30 years ago. What's been happening since? And the cyber myth is about these humans who have had to alter themselves, to adapt themselves in order to live on the planet that they've ruined. And they've got sicker and sicker, and so they have to walk around in uniforms, in costumes, exoskeletons like that. That is the warning for us. It's clearly not been heeded by our political leaders anyway. I think it's getting through to ordinary people like us. But ordinary people have got to rise up and say, enough's enough. Let's stop it. Stop earning all this money. Stop burning all this oil. Let's get back to the planet that we love. There is no other planet. Musk, who's probably been the richest person in all of history, is trying to take us to Mars. Mars is no good. It will take us hundreds of thousands of years before it will do for us. There's no planet B. This is the planet that we must save. That is the story of the Cybermen. Amen.
There you go.
And can I give a shout out to Maddie and Kathy? Thank you so much for putting up with me in the last few days. Thank you.
The Doctor.
When Sylvester played his last Doctor, that was it. You know, that was 1809, and we thought that was the end of Doctor Who as we knew it. In a way, it was. But the producer, J&T, John Nathan Turner, came up with the idea of putting it on stage. So the next year, or that year actually, we started rehearsals for what was going to be almost a year-long tour of a Doctor Who show called The Ultimate Adventure. I was brought in not as a Cyberman, but as a baddie, as the baddie, Carl. They needed somebody to understudy John Pertwee, who was going to be playing the Doctor. John was going to be 70 during the tour, and I thought, well, there'll be some shows that he didn't want to do or he'd give up. And so I agreed to understudy the Doctor, but I wanted my own costume and I wanted my own rehearsals. And I did get the chance for a couple of shows. And it, you know, it worked out okay. And there are not so many people who play the Doctor, so I'm very glad to be part of that.
Well, of course, now that's all official canon, isn't it? They've created this backstory of the Doctor where who knows how many incarnations there's been.
Yeah.
So you could well be official.
I'm a bit official.